interim study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study on Senate Bill 267. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator D'Alessandro. Discussion. While this program may be something that in fact is needed, looking through the documentation, there were some discrepancies in here that I think merit interim study. Under the methodology, it states that there would be a new program coordinator position, but yet when we look at the when we look at the fiscal note, the last paragraph in the fiscal note says the language of the bill does not establish a new position or include an appropriation for personnel support of the program. So I think it certainly merits determining whether a new position is needed or not, and so I would support the interim study motion. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of interim study on Senate Bill 267 say aye. 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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries. Senator Reagan.
Yep.
Going to Senate Bill 361. This is requiring bail commissioners being reimbursed for mileage traveled in the performance of their duties.
Move on to pass.
Senator Reagan moves on to pass, seconded by Senator Hennessy. Discussion? I did have one question in this particular bill. Does this prevent someone from being reimbursed for mileage if they used a county vehicle or some sort of an official vehicle?
Well, how could they even apply for it?
It doesn't say they couldn't.
Not that they don't want to be arrested.
Further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion of ought to pass say aye. 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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. The motion carries. And Senator Hennessy, you want to take that one? Senate Bill 376.
Move the amendment ought to pass.
We're putting that off. I had an amendment I need on that.
We're not doing 376.
Yeah, yes, no. Senator Morse was asking about 363.
376, which amendment?
Well, that was my next question, which,
Yeah, I think we were. I think we were confused as to which number we were on.
okay. So we're on Senate Bill 376.
My motion is interim study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study on Senate Bill 376. Is there a second? I will second. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, are you going to engage or entertain either one of these amendments? He's got amendment, Senator Gada offered amendment 0418S, which, it's to create a board to review public incidents involving citizens affected by mental health issues. There is an appropriation attached to this. But I wonder if that's even going to be looked at. Amendment is again 0154S. That carries another appropriation.
Okay. Do you have any objection taking up amendment 1054?
In anticipation of the study, I think it would be premature to allow a decision of the study committee to offer anything.
Right. Well, I mean, where he's, if I might, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
where he's not here, and he's offered both of these amendments. Just a question.
Well, let's take up 0418. First, that was the first amendment that was put in. And that is the motion by Senator Reagan for interim study and discussion on that motion in regard to this amendment. Or they're actually the bill, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking, I'm sorry, we're talking about the bill, 376. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I worked with Senator Gaida on developing this legislation. He hosted several meetings in the fall and winter with basically every stakeholder, the state police, the AG, NAMI, who else was there. But are they working now? They are working, sorry. And everyone agreed that it was terrible when someone who is known to law enforcement to have a mental illness ended up with law enforcement shooting them. And no one wanted to place blame, but everyone thought we could do a better job preventing a situation like that. And I think it was provoked by something that had happened in Claremont. And so I won't be able to support an interim study motion because I think this is a really important subject to move a little bit down the field. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? I think I read someplace where the police standards and training basically said they didn't have room to provide this training. So I had questions on where the training was going to take place. You know, in some discussions it has come up is, you know, can this be done virtually? If that is the case, why do we need so much money? Whether it's 3.9 million or 2 million. So I would agree with the previous speaker that it appears to be an important program. I'm concerned about the appropriation on it and what it's going to be used for, and can it be can the training be handled in a more cost-effective way? Further discussion. Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the point is that this kind of training is absolutely necessary given what's happening in our world today, in giving the kind of pressure that law enforcement is being put under on a daily basis throughout our state and throughout our country, and the use of deadly weapons, and the fact that our law enforcement people are confronted every day with these terrible, terrible situations. And the fact of the matter is, many of them are young kids who have mental illness, and you get a situation where one shoots another, and you get national negative publicity, and it falls upon the police officer who gets beat up over this situation. And I might say that we're having an extremely difficult time recruiting and retaining police officers at all levels, at state level, at county level, and at our local level. We've got, I was told today, we've got almost 70 vacancies in our state police at this point in time. And I know in Manchester and other communities, recruitment and retention of police officers is very, very difficult at this point in time. Nobody wants to do it. And part of the reason is that there are so many situations that they have to confront, and we haven't spent the time training people to address these situations. Just my thought on the matter. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. Two questions. One is that we could do parts 1 through 6 of the bill and not the appropriation. Maybe that question's for you, Mr. Chairman, but also for, I have a question for Senator Rosenwald. This didn't come up in the budget process, did it? Do you know when you were working on this with Senator Guida?
It did not.
Okay.
He called it together, if I may. He called it together starting last fall. It did not come up during the budget process, but in discussions with this large group that met, I think three or four times, it evolved into 2 parts. The first one was he thought there should be better training, and he also thought there should be a formal process for a debrief in such a way that it wasn't to cast blame, but it was to learn from any particular incident, like we do with the Healthcare Quality Safety Commission. When something bad happens or almost happens in a hospital, and the hospitals are able to get together and without being subject to 91A, able to discuss among their peer organizations, here's what happened, here's what we did, and they can brainstorm other ways that might have led to a better outcome. So there were really 2 parts. You're right, we could proceed with the first part of the bill, which sets up his committee to figure out what that process, the formal process, should look like. The second part is the appropriation for training. That could really be part of the next budget, but I think that starting to look at how we can avoid the unnecessary death of people who are known to have mental illness, I think we should be pursuing that. So I guess if you were going to make a motion to divide out those parts, I would second it.
Further discussion?
Just to follow, Mr. Chairman, I agree with your sentiments about the appropriation. Is it 3.9 million? Is it 2 million? And what is the backup for those funding? And looking at it as a training program, that would be an ongoing program that we would need to fund continuously. So I see that as more of a budget item discussion, but I support my colleagues' establishment of the committee. without the funding.
Okay, now I'll say that I would have no objection to taking section 7 out and passing the remainder. Further discussion on the motion of interim study. Seeing none, all those in favor of interim study, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
No?
Nay.
No.
And motion fails. 1 to 5. And is there a willingness on the part of the committee for a committee amendment to strike the appropriation?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
The only question is the
Oh,
amendment
yeah, that's true.
in the front changed a couple of other things too. I mean, I suppose we could strike section 7, get it out of here, and then when it gets to the floor, he'll be back, and we can put an amendment to it, so.
I think we can, if you're agreeable, Mr. Chairman, I think we can pass amendment 418S without section 7.
Is there any objection from the committee on that? So so Senator Hennessy had moved 40418S, striking section 7. Is there a second on that? Second by Senator Reagan. Any further discussion?
I'll
Senator
support,
D'Alessandro.
thank you, Mr. Chairman, I'll support the amendment, but recognize the fact that without an appropriation, you can't do anything. All right, it's a statement, we're making a statement, and we can discuss it on the floor. But if there's not a way to do this, then we're just putting something out there, and what's the ultimate result?
Senator Hennessy or Senator Morse?
Yeah, that's not what the money does, though. The money is specifically to help the local department.
Mike?
I think you're still setting up this commission, but we can talk about the money when he gets back anyway, so.
I think there's definite need for the commission. There's no question in my mind that we need something like this. And listen, broadening the training for police officers that's a function that's got to take place. It's got to take place based on what's happening around the country and the kind of situations that they're facing. And one of the situations they're facing are people with mental health problems. And these mental health problems are pervasive. I mean, look at the money that we spent at fiscal committee on Friday, what, $45 million to deal with mental health issues? So it's very clear that there's a problem that has to be dealt with.
And I understand your point, but mental health is not a new thing.
No.
And, my hope, and I don't know, but my hope would have been that as time went along and mental health issues became prevalent, that the training would have been changed to incorporate that in. I don't know to what extent.
Right.
And, when I read this, it was in addition to that, but I don't know if this can somehow be incorporated into a new training program or whatever, but I certainly have no objection toward getting the process started with the establishment of a review board so that we can address these issues.
Okay.
Any further discussion? There being none, we're voting on a committee amendment on 0418S, excluding the appropriation. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. The ayes have it and the motion carries.
I move on to,
I'm sorry?
Not to pass
Oh,
this.
Senator Rosenwald moves on to pass as amended,
Second.
seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Discussion? Senator Hennessy.
I just want to be clear that even though we're taking out the section 7 in the amendment, we also intend to take out section 7 in the bill.
Ditto.
Yes. Any further discussion? All those in favor of ought to pass as amended, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Is there someone who would like to take that out? Sure. Senator Rosenwald, thank you. Going on to Senate Bill 379.
Move ought to pass.
I'm sorry? Oh, nope. No, I'll mention though again, the ones that we're not going to do with 303, 363, 421, 430, 445, and 458. Senator Hennessy moves ought, would you move on that? Ought to pass?
Yes.
On Senate Bill 379. Seconded by Senator Rosenwald. This establishes the Solid Waste Management Fund grant program. And if I recall correctly, this was amended as it came through our last session to remove the money that was in it. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of the motion of ought to pass, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Going on to oh, somebody needs to, huh?
I'll take it up.
Thank you, Senator D'Alessandro. Going on to Senate Bill 401.
Move the joint study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study. Is there a second? I will second the motion. Discussion? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we voting against the interim study motion? I think this is an important bill. We've discussed the importance of providing places for women to give birth in the state. We know that several of our critical access birth, labor and delivery facilities have closed in some of our critical access hospitals, and finding a place to give birth in the state is getting harder and harder. Additionally, if you talk with some of the bigger hospitals, they will say that they're getting a lot of the overflow, and sometimes they can't handle that. Or they can handle that. They probably wouldn't use those words. I apologize. I want to remind everybody I am on the board of a critical access hospital, Littleton Regional Healthcare. But this affects all of the state of New Hampshire, especially when we're trying to expand our workforce and meet the needs of the state and of our growing older population. And I support the increased Medicaid rate because it helps to keep those facilities open that we currently have open. And without that, they do lose money on every Medicaid birth that they provide. And the younger you are in the state of New Hampshire, the more apt you are to be on Medicaid. So we see a lot of young women giving birth who have Medicaid as insurance coverage, and that's why we lose a lot of money on labor and delivery services in the state. So, ramble.
Thank you. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I agree with Senator Hennessy. And I would add that it's not just a problem of critical access hospitals. Parkland closed its OB unit, one of the two hospitals in Nashua actually discussed doing so. And we are talking about 30% of our births in the state are covered by Medicaid. So it's a significant payer. We just can't keep losing places where you can have a baby. So I'll be voting against the interim study as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Is the department here?
Yes.
There's no fiscal note on this, there's just testimony that you were driving your car one day, and you came up with a number. Can you explain to me what it is?
I apologize, we did put out a fiscal note, but it was only this afternoon, so I apologize for the timing on that. But in a nutshell, it states that the general fund cost of increasing rates by 25% is expected to be about $2.4 million per year.
Further discussion? Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. You have basically a 50-50 federal match in your fiscal note, but aren't some of these births covered by Medicaid expansion, which would be no general funds and 90%?
They may be, and I would ask the department to speak to that. In the information that they provided, it wasn't exactly 50-50, but it was close enough for fiscal note purposes. I showed it as evenly split.
If I could follow up, aren't some of the others covered by the pregnant women category, which also has a higher federal match rate?
They may be, but again, I would ask the department to speak to the specifics of that.
Basically, my approach to the fiscal note is, thank you. For the record, Henry Littman, Medicaid Director. The approach to the fiscal note was to try to be conservative in terms of what the financial impact would be to a certain extent, because births are something that fluctuate a bit from year to year. And so rather than being the number of births that are in the other categories are not that significant, that used 50% in terms of what the, a 25% amount of an increase represented on the total expenditure. I thought it was an appropriate number to have a discussion on. The fiscal note that we submitted recently has not changed since the March 7th fiscal note. What changed in the fiscal note was the policy changes that were tweaks around the composition of the commission and the discretion that the commissioner had.
Further discussion? Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question. So Henry, I just got the fiscal note. We got it as we were coming in. So the numbers stated in the fiscal note are 2.4 million state and 2.4 million federal.
Correct.
So it's a $4.8 million deal, based on and these are based on the numbers that are occurring as we speak. I understand there'll be fluctuations.
Yep.
But we have something to go on.
Right. I mean, statewide, we've done about 12,000 births, give or take a couple hundred births for a number of years now, and Medicaid represents close to 30%, as Senator Rosenwald mentioned. But should be noted that in the North Country, it can be considerably higher than 30%. It can approach 40 or 45 and 50%, I think, in one hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
What's the motion
Question?
on the floor right now?
The motion is interim study right now.
Mr. Chairman, what if we deleted lines 1 through 9 right now and pass the balance of the bill?
Is that a motion?
Well, if he'll take the interim study back, it would be.
I'll withdraw the interim study motion.
Okay, interim study has been withdrawn, and the chair recognizes Senator Morse.
I'd move on to pass, and for now, I delete 1 through 9 until we can take a better look at that number.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Reagan. Discussion? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. A question for Senator Morse. Does that motion take out the funding and just create a study of impact of birthing services and a commission?
Yes, because I have a feeling the debate on the floor will be much different than that. So I just figured to get it to the floor, that's a good way to get it there.
Further discussion? Just a question maybe for Mr. Littman. One of the notes in our documentation indicates that HHS was contacted for a fiscal note initially on November 22nd last year, and then again on December 21st. Why does it take so long to get us when, you know, that's the information that we're looking for?
As I said, I think that I in terms of that back history, I don't have a recollection of that. I do know that the fiscal note that we provided to the committee on March 7th didn't change to the one you got today in terms of the fiscal items on it. I'll have to go back, Senator.
I don't recall getting a one on from March 7th.
The department did provide information to us on March 7th, and unfortunately, we didn't produce it in a fiscal note until today, so again, I apologize for that. I think at the last meeting, you may have handed out some information, but it wasn't a formal fiscal note.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? The motion is to, oh, I'm sorry, Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Just quickly, I'll be voting against this motion. I don't think we should continue to put pregnant women's ability to not have to drive an hour in labor at risk for another year.
Further discussion, Senator Morse.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that, Senator. The financial note came out today for us to take a look at this. I mean, before we get to the floor, I think we can do, but I'm just, instead of doing interim study, I'm trying to pass a bill that I think has a good thought in it, and we can go back and look at the financials over the next week.
Further discussion? Senator Rosenwald.
Could we hold the bill till next week?
We could.
Rather than re-amending it on the floor?
Is that the desire of the committee?
If indeed we would be receiving better information, that makes sense. Why not? Why not hold it for another week? It's not.
It's probably a better
urgent.
idea.
Okay. With no objection, then, we will put this on our agenda for 3/29. Going on to our next bill, Senate Bill 402.
Postponed it.
No, I think this one here, first of all, is there a motion? Senator D'Alessandro.
I would I would move the bill for discussion purposes, because we have some better information coming from Homeland Security about this situation, which I think would be very informative to us in the decision-making process.
Okay. Yeah, so and that's seconded by Senator Hennessy. Senator D'Alessandro?
You know, thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could have Homeland Security come up. We've just received some very vital information about FEMA and the percentage of reimbursement. And thank you so much for coming.
Yeah,
and,
thank you,
if
Senator.
you could convey it to the.
For the record,
Please.
Fallon Reed, Division of Homeland Security, Emergency Management, Department of Safety. So what I had mentioned to Senator briefly before you all started was on Friday, we got word from FEMA that with the President signing the omnibus spending appropriation, that disasters declared between January 2020 and December 2021, the cost share for public assistance and hazard mitigation will be changed from 75-25 split to 90-10 split. So the two disasters that were declared this past summer, 4622 and 4624, will now have a 10% cost share that the local entity has to come up with versus the original 25 is what we thought.
Okay, well, Senator Hennessy?
Thank you. And the last time we discussed this, I don't think we actually had a number for what we would need for this one. Do we
Yeah,
know more?
unfortunately, we still don't have a solid number for you. The team at our office is working on doing the project development and everything. So we're still a ways out, which I understand is problematic.
Senator D'Alessandro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But we have a methodology in place where the community can go to the governor, ask for X number of dollars, get that as a low interest or a no interest loan, and when they receive the money from FEMA, they pay it back, and if it covers the entire expenditure, that's one thing. If there's a differential, then they pay the difference. So there's a way that they can get this going and get it done without without the big number being omnipresent at the time. It can be done, and they can do what supposedly the urgency of this is to get it done. And we found out that mechanism was in place, and now it's been further enhanced by the fact that there'll be a 90% match. I mean, that's tremendous. You go from 75 to 90%, and I think that's great information in terms of the communities, in terms of getting their work done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I know before we had talked in the 25%, that 12.5% was paid by the state, 12.5% by the communities. Well, if we do the 90-10, does that mean that each entity has 5%?
Based on the way 402 is written, yes, but it would need to be changed because it specifically mentions 12.5%, which we would only be looking at 5% if this were to move forward.
Or any other.
Right, any other amount that you all deem.
Okay, further discussion? So, is the committee in favor of the bill changing the 12.5% to 5%?
I'm speaking for myself, but based on the information we have, 5% would be the maximum that the community would have to come up with. Again, based on the fact that the law now says it'll be a 90-10 match, and under what has been normal procedure here in New Hampshire, it's been a 50-50 split for what's left over. So if the leftover is 10%, it's 5% for each. Or, oh yeah, sure, exactly. Or it could be, you could waive the entire 10%.
Senator Hennessy.
I have a question for Senator D'Alessandro regarding his amendment 521S. Just wondering what that does versus what the underlying bill.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Well,
use this now anyway, so.
Yeah,
Sorry, did we get a number on what the FEMA request is yet?
no, you said we don't have that, we don't have that, we don't have that number.
90-10.
So what would finance wanna do? Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand.
Well, if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think that my recommendation is that they follow the process that's been in place, where they go to the governor and ask for the loan. And given the fact now that 90% will be taken care of by the federal government, you got a much better situation to look at. So if you're gonna get reimbursed 90%, and the immediacy of the situation is get it done now, so that you won't be incurring greater costs and moving along, and you'll be addressing the problem, we talked about a way to do that. And that seemed to be a good way to go. The 90% makes it an even better way to go.
But I think they can get the loan at any point in time,
Yes, yeah,
which they didn't wanna do last fall.
right, well, and then they did go to and get a loan. They went to the bank, remember? Which was crazy. There was no reason to go to a bank when you had an opportunity to borrow it. I mean, the state had the money.
But I guess
Bring it forward.
the legislation is to make an appropriation.
Yeah, that's the amendment, and I'm not in favor of that. I don't think that's a good way to go. I think we have a mechanism in place to do this, setting this appropriation in place when you really don't know what the number is. I don't think it's the proper way to go. I couldn't support that when I don't know what the number is.
Further discussion, Senator Rosenwald.
Thanks. I have a question of the LBA.
On what?
So the amendment says basically fiscal can approve a general fund appropriation. I thought fiscal couldn't do that.
Are you referring
Except
to,
for like the judicial council.
there's very few avenues for general fund appropriations through fiscal. This would create a new one, and that's what Senator D'Alessandro's amendment's looking to do, 0521S.
But would it be just session law?
This would be in statute, so it would create a mechanism for a municipality to apply through the Department of Safety for assistance with that match, that local match of the FEMA reimbursement. And then it would give the Department of Safety the authority to seek fiscal and GNC approval to draw a warrant to make that payment.
Could I follow? Thank you. But in this case, we're talking about approval for 10% of the total cost, where that's probably that's time limited. So this amendment, we'd have to say not to exceed 10%, but that would change the statute going forward, which would be problematic.
Senator D'Alessandro's amendment's not specific to these two disasters that the underlying bill was specific to. This would be a mechanism in perpetuity for future situations as well.
So, and now I understand why why you think it's problematic.
Yes. And if I might, Mr. Chairman, and the 10%, the 90-10, there's a point in time when that ends. That's specifically for a period. And we need something going forward that's going to be able to handle another situation like this. And that's why we developed this mechanism in order to create a place where people could go in terms of a disaster to get the money a little bit quicker. The original amendment called for direct appropriation. I'm opposed to that. because A, we don't know what the amount of money is, and we can't be making these direct appropriations all the time, because you limit yourself to begin with. And what if the appropriation isn't enough? And are they gonna come back? Or what if it's too much? What do you do with the extra money and so on? We have a way to deal with this, I think, that makes sense. And, of course, the caveat right now is you only get the 90% reimbursement for a period of time. It only refers to items that took place between this time certain that's identified.
So if we pass Senator D'Alessandro's 0521, then the fact that things are 90-10 now would fit into that. Because it says not to exceed.
I'd say technically speaking, yes. So I think this does create a rulemaking procedure for the Department of Safety. So I would expect that they would keep the rules that the amount of state assistance here wouldn't exceed whatever the local match would be in the event of that storm. So for the 2 years that we were updated about today, that would be 10%. Assuming everything goes back to the former 75-25, it would be back to the 25.
Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what I'm hearing, you would like to remove your motion about to pass, and I would remove my second?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so what is the desire?
Well, I'd like to move amendment 0521S.
Senator D'Alessandro moves amendment 0521S. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Reagan. Any further discussion? Senator Hennessy.
I'm just confused. I thought we just heard that it would put it in statute forever, rather than on a case-by-case basis.
This would create a mechanism in perpetuity. Each case would be subject to an application through the department and a fiscal and governor and council approval to actually disperse the state aid in these instances.
And in the past, we've not done 25%, we've done 12.5%.
Correct. And I believe the last time we had a regular mechanism of the 12.5% was pre-2010. So this is going back a ways when the state was involved with the matching the FEMA.
And why did we take out that match?
I can't say specifically. I can't recall that.
Senator Morse?
Yeah, but the line that's in here on line 17, the governor is authorized to draw a warrant out of any money in the treasury not otherwise appropriated, exists every day. If the governor were to go to fiscal with a request, this would be done at fiscal.
Are you referring to the civil emergency provisions that exist now?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So if it met the criteria of that civil emergency under RSA 913D, the governor could seek fiscal approval to make such expenditures.
And if we were to pass this, it still requires the governor to make the request.
The governor is the department, yeah, the executive would make the request.
Yeah, so I'm not understanding what we're accomplishing.
Well, the idea was to accomplish a mechanism to put in place that could be used, particularly addressing the situation that was brought forward by Senator Khan. This was a way to address that situation and to provide an opportunity to put something in place that if this happened in the future, you'd have a mechanism in place to deal with it. That's the rationale behind it. I mean, you can support it or not support it, but we were trying to solve a problem. That's why this all came forward. And the fact of the matter was, rather than addressing the issue that came before us, where they asked for a specific amount of money, and nobody said that was enough money because we didn't have any idea how much money it was.
We still don't.
And we still don't at this point in time. So this was a way for the community to go to the governor with a cost, borrow the money from the state, And the fact of the matter is that there would be a reimbursable situation from FEMA, and at one time it was 75%. Now for these special instances, it's 90%. I think I was just looking for a path that people could follow to solve their problem, rather than going to a bank. It just didn't seem to me to be the right, to go to a bank and borrow the money where the bank may refuse you, based on the quality of the loan. But listen, I just want to solve a problem, and I know everybody here wants to solve a problem. If we can come up with a better way, I'm certainly amenable to that.
Based on Senator Morse's comments, is there anything that prevents a community now from going to the governor with a particular figure?
Well, it would make perfect sense right now, because you're what, 6 months into it?
Yeah.
If we knew the FEMA request right now, right? If it was $10 million, then that's $1 million that would need to be appropriated, and we could do that right now.
Yeah.
And we don't know that number, that's why I asked for it.
Right.
I mean, we could appropriate a number to this community or any of the other communities today for the 10%, which is what we've done in the past.
Right.
And it sounded like it was a cash flow issue. If we had anything in front of us right now, I think we could appropriate it. I mean, this bill has to get out of the Senate next week. So I don't think we're going to be ready for a plug number for this, but maybe what we do is we strip the bills of numbers, send it over to the House, and by then they'll have their FEMA requests filled out, and we can work with the House to put the number back in.
Well, I think right now we don't have a number.
Right.
And all we have before us is, through Amendment 521, is a process. Senator Rosenwald.
I just have a question. Can right now the fiscal committee approve general funds for this purpose? Or do we need this amendment to enable fiscal, instead of the whole legislature, to appropriate these general funds?
Specific to this, it would, I think the only mechanism would be that civil emergency statute that would allow for fiscal to be involved with the appropriation of general funds for something like this. It's something specific to FEMA match, local match assistance. There's nothing like that currently in statute.
So 21P would allow that through a civil emergency, these loans.
So the loans are something different than this. So if you recall, Senator Prentice's Senate Bill 409 was specific to the disaster relief loans, which are, the cash flow situation Senator D'Alessandro talked about. The money would go and get paid back once the FEMA reimbursement came in. Senate Bill 402 seeks to have state aid essentially pay without any expectation of a return to the state. This would just be the state paying the local share along with the local community, splitting that local cost. So Senate Bill 402 would be a straight appropriation to match FEMA dollars, whereas the loan program that you see in 21P 37, that's a close to a 0% loan program. And in that bill that you did pass, Senate Bill 409 did make it 0%.
Senator Morse?
Yeah, I go back to the governor could do this at any time. He could go to fiscal with this request from funds not otherwise appropriated. That's how it's been done in the past. So where the legislature could help out in a different fashion is if the legislature knew this number right now, we would have appropriated 25%, to be honest with you. I mean, that's where we're all headed here, right? And now it's been reduced to 10, but we don't know from what number.
Right.
And all I'm saying is, if you need a vehicle, you could use any vehicle. To be honest with you, we could put an amendment on anything in the next month and accomplish this. I mean, maybe this bill's not needed, but
I'm feeling very thick
Yeah.
I mean, if the goal was to cover that 10% for the community, we could put an amendment on something and do that.
If I might, Mr. Chairman, I think the goal, the initial goal was to provide the community with access to funds so that they could do a job in an appropriate manner, in a timely manner, and await the FEMA reimbursement. And at that time, they reimbursed that money to the state, and they paid the differential that in those days. In the past, it was 12.5%. Now it's 10%. So I think that was the goal. It seems to me the fact that the numbers never surfaced in terms of what they wanted is crazy.
Well, it surfaced on their end. It surfaced about 27 or $28 million, if I recall, in one community. I'm not sure the FEMA request is close to that at this point. But don't forget, what you're trying to suggest right now, we solved already. They could get a loan from us at any point in time. They could have got it back then, but they didn't want to. The fact that they went to a bank, I guess none of us were privy to. So I think that the fact was they didn't think they could cover the cash flow for a loan. And in the long run, all you're talking about there is they needed cash flow.
Yes.
And that would take an appropriation, Lou, in any fashion.
Yes.
I don't see a system we could build that would work.
Senator Hennessy?
It's a long process. It's a long process.
This was supposed to be an easy one.
Right. This was easy months ago.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, the motion before us is approval of amendment 0521S. Any further discussion on that? There being none, all those in favor of that motion say aye. Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Nay. And the motion fails. We have a motion on the main bill. I'll move inexpedient to legislate.
Second.
Discussion?
It could when it hits the floor.
There being none, all those in favor of the motion inexpedient to legislate, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? And I didn't,
Question.
Who's opposed?
A question, sorry. I should have asked before I voted, which I didn't. If we move inexpedient to legislate and we get a number in a week or two for this community, so we know what the 10% is, if we've said we don't support this, can we then add something to a House bill, or are we not allowed to do that?
Turn it on the floor.
You have just about every senator on this bill. I mean, if someone were willing to draft an amendment, I think you could keep this alive going over to the House in a fashion where it truly could put a study into it, right, for how we build a system for the future, and you can allude to an appropriation by putting in $1. And then the House can take a look at it, because maybe they'll have the numbers by then. Unless you want to do that in the Senate right now, and we just do a motion to get it out of here and get it to the floor, so.
okay, try again. Motion is inexpedient to legislate. Although in favor of that motion, raise your hand. Opposed? And the motion fails. Is there another motion on the bill?
I would move on to pass right now.
I move interim study.
Senator Hennessy moves interim study. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Morse. Any discussion on interim study? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And the ayes have it 4-2.
Mr. Chairman, I'll draft the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Next bill, Senate Bill 4, oh. I'll take it out. Senate Bill 425.
I gotta go.
Move on to pass.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass. That's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Senator Reagan. Discussion? I'll say that I'm co-sponsor on this bill, but I do have some concerns about the fiscal notes on here, particularly as it hits the general fund. I mean, we're going from 1.6 to 3.5 to 6.3 over 3 years, and I just kind of wonder when it stops. Or, you know, theoretically, I thought this was supposed to be an instrument to save money in the long run, but I don't see it projected far enough out to make me comfortable voting for the bill. Further discussion? Seeing. We'll be in recess for a moment.
Just put this community that has no roads, and they're not getting their act together. We got all those dramatic pictures of all these roads washed out. Like, is everybody caught up?
To pay for this?
I'm going to come back in and you may ask a question.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Vicki, isn't this a use for Harbor money? Okay. And how much, do we know how much money that we have, how much HAVA money is still available to us? Who can get us that number? Okay, great. Thank you, Mick. It seems to me that's why we got all that money.
Well, I did have a question, you know,
Yeah,
ARPA money, HAVA money.
right.
Can't beat it.
But help them with the Vote Act, I mean, geez.
And are those funds something that would be ongoing and available going on?
I'm not sure, I think we need to find somebody in the office to speak.
They're just checking on, you just went to look at that.
License costs. It looks like the license costs are really only keep going up.
Okay, why don't we set this aside while we're waiting for someone to come and go on to, child support.
431.
Senate Bill 431.
Move ought to pass.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Rosenwald. Discussion. There being none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And who would like to take that out? Senator D'Alessandro, thank you. Senate Bill 434.
Interim study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study. Is there a second? I will second. Discussion?
There was insufficient information to make a studied decision.
Okay, further discussion? Motion is interim study on Senate Bill 434. All those in favor of that motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Vote is 3-2. The motion passes. Senate Bill 438.
Move ought to pass.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass on Senate Bill 438. Is there a second? Second by Senator D'Alessandro. Discussion? I guess the question I would have is that there doesn't seem to be any guidelines in here on amounts. I mean, we've got a statement that says this only applies if the amount is greater than $1 million. If you had a project that was $1.5 million for steel, and this only applies to steel as well, that you could get non-American for $1.5 million or pay for American at $3.5 million.
I think that's addressed in the bill.
How's that?
You can't,
Where?
my memory tells me that we didn't allow that. That could be a mistake.
Yeah, because my concern was that, and I don't recall, and if you can find something, that would certainly help. But, you know, you're talking at the local and county, when they have projects that you are now forcing them to pay who knows how much more than whatever the American price is, then you're basically downshifting costs to the local communities. I mean, we ask our officials at the county and local levels to try to get the best price they can, and while I like buying American when it's comparable, when it's competitive.
It allows for a waiver from the bill.
What's that?
It allows for a waiver from the bill.
Okay, so lines 20 and 21 on page 2 say that, Costa Rica runner, actually line 15, I guess.
Huh?
Starts at line 15 on page 2. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I read this as not applying to local projects. Page 1 of the bill, line 24, it's state administered. But I guess my question is, where did 25%, so basically guarantees 25% higher cost? And I don't know where that came from. If it's 20% higher cost, you can't get a waiver, I think.
Where do you see the
Well,
percent?
it's or, right. That is on page 2, lines 12 through 14.
Okay, got it.
So one of the reasons for a waiver is that you had a competitive bid, I think. And the domestic product was at least 25% more expensive than the lowest other bid. And I don't know what the justification is for 25%.
Okay, so you're using your figure of 20%, it has to be a $1 million project, so you're asking the local communities to pay $200,000 more.
Right. I mean, what were the state projects? I'm not seeing local communities, but I'm probably missing that.
This is any state and non-state contract.
Okay, I know we did have some testimony that referred to the municipalities. Would be required to comply without the ability to apply for a waiver. Most municipal projects do not use federal funds, and therefore the Buy America provisions are unfamiliar, and there is potential for increased cost and compliance challenges. No opposition to encouraging the use of domestic. Okay, any further discussion? Motion before us is ought to pass on Senate Bill 438. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Nay. The motion carries 4-1. And Who would like to take this out?
I'll take it out.
Senator Hennessy, thank you.
Our previous bill, we didn't get a person to take it out. The
Uh,
oversight, 434.
That's correct. Thank you, Senator.
I'll take that one.
I was stuck with him anyway. Senator Hughes, Secretary of State's here to answer any questions on our previous bills.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go back to 425. Chair will recognize the Secretary of State. Afternoon.
Chairman, I understand I've been summoned and feel prepared because this was not my radar screen, but I'd be happy to try and answer your questions.
Okay. I think one of the questions we had on this is, will HAVA funds be used?
No. A broader answer is that my understanding is the Department of Information Technology is also involved in this discussion, and the size of the fiscal note reflects not only the effort on the part of the Secretary of State's office, but it would be a broader portal for other state agencies that have the proper security and protections against cyber attacks and things like that. So while this focuses on an election information portal, the structure would be such that it would be built to also accommodate other state agencies.
Okay. How about ARPA funds?
ARPA funds, so it's possible that ARPA funds could be used towards this effort to the extent that we have Title I monies that are available for improving elections. However, the way the legislature has set up the ARPA funds.
Okay, this is American Rescue Plan, ARPA.
Oh, HAVA. It's possible. I believe it's possible because because of a broader statewide agency effort.
Okay. Senator D'Alessandro, did that get all your questions, or did you have more?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, but just if I might, one further one. The HAVA funds, Mr. Secretary, the question is, you say this thing is much broader, but as it deals with elections, how can the HAVA funds be used? I mean, what can they specifically be used for as it relates to a safe election and an election that all the information is available, how to do this and do that? To what extent can we use those funds?
So the HAVA fund right now is, I believe we have about $12 million in the election fund. A portion of that, a much smaller portion, is considered Title I monies. Those were the first funds that were issued under the Help America Vote Act to the states. And that allows the states to spend money to generally improve the election process. So to the extent that an election portal is designed to make it easier for voters to register to vote and apply for absentee ballot, then that would be an appropriate use of those funds. The larger portion of the election fund is to meet the actual mandates of the Help America Vote Act, which includes the creation and the maintenance of a statewide voter registration database, making sure that we have accessible voting systems at every polling location. And then funds can be used for voter education, poll worker training, and enforcement activities by the Attorney General's office to enforce the provisions of the Help America Vote Act.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I guess the other question was, looking at the fiscal note on this, which starts in '23 with 1.6 million going to 3.5 million in '24 to 6.3 million in '25. How long can we expect this to continue rising by millions of dollars every year before it might reach a point where it starts saving money?
That's probably a better question to ask the Commissioner of Information Technology, because this is, as I mentioned at the beginning, a much broader project that we're setting up. My experience with database systems and software is that once you establish a program, it is expensive to maintain them, and more maintenance fees,
Right.
you got equipment.
Yeah, I think the main thing seemed to be $5 million for licenses. Okay, any questions? Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Of the $12 million in HAVA funds, how much is Title I?
Let me get that information for you, I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Thank
It's
you.
less than 5 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions for the Secretary of State? Seeing none, thank you very much. What is the committee's desire on this? Do you wish to wait for that information that's being obtained, or do you wish to vote on it?
I'm willing to proceed.
Okay. I think we had a motion of ought to pass on this, and that was seconded. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? Nay. And the motion carries 4-1. Senator Reagan?
Sure.
Okay, going down to Senate Bill 442. No, not that one.
Move on to this.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass on Senate Bill 442. Seconded by Senator Rosenwald. This is relative to the suspension of a motor vehicle registration as a result of evading toll collections. And discussion. Where is this amendment?
It doesn't look like an amendment.
Oh, okay. That's basically a proposal.
It's language.
Did you get this from DOT?
Which is here today.
Okay, anyone from DOT? Are recognized to talk to your amendment language?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Kathy Mulcahy Hampson, I'm the senior hearings examiner and legislative liaison for the Department of Transportation. The bill is to change the current enforcement on toll evasion from a denial of registration renewal privileges, which is your suspension doesn't hit until your birth month when you go to register your vehicle. The bill would change that denial of registration renewal to a suspension, so that within 30 days of a notice from DMV, your registration privileges would be suspended. individuals who have been very creative in circumventing the toll collection process. And if they're in DMV hold and unable to register their vehicle, they can secure another plate, so we close that loop. Now what that has happened is a husband will transfer ownership to his wife or to an adult child. So we had originally had in the bill that transfer of ownership of the vehicle would be prohibited while the vehicle's in DMV hold. And there was, while we were before Senate Transportation, there was concern raised by lien holders and insurance companies. So those exclusions were built into the bill. And then after it passed Senate Transportation, car dealers raised an issue with it. So what the amendment deals with is instead of an outright prohibition on transfer of ownership while the person is in DMV hold, it prohibits transfer of ownership to a family member or an individual with the same address listed in the DMV records.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. We have a letter from the insurance auto auctions, people suggesting an amendment. Does your amendment address their concern about the lien holders?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I think that was addressed when we were before Senate Transportation, and we had an exclusion for them. But then we just removed all the exclusions when the car dealers raised the issue, and we made the prohibition on transfer of ownership only applicable between family members and individuals living at the same address.
Okay.
So it should not impact the lien holders, the insurance companies, or the car dealers.
Thank you.
So this effectively could delay the sale of a vehicle waiting for the state to check the status.
I don't believe so, Senator Daniels. I think what would happen is when they get the information for the transfer of title, if the names are the same or the address listed is the same, they would prohibit the transfer at DMV. But in terms of, a normal, if I sold you a car on the transfer title and the names aren't the same and the address listed isn't the same, it just goes through.
Okay, so I've got outstanding tolls. You send a letter to me, and I've got 30 days to pay those tolls. If in that 30 days, I transfer my car.
So it depends where you are in the toll collection process. We send a lot of notices. So if you don't pay a toll, we send you a notice for requesting payment of the toll and a dollar fee payable in 30 days. If you don't pay that, we send a second notice requesting payment of the toll and a $1.50 fee payable in 30 days. If you don't pay that, we send a third notice, a violation notice. It's escalated to a violation, we request payment of the toll plus $25. You're not in DMV hold at that point. You're not sent to DMV hold until you have 10 or more violations. So not the ones at the dollar level or the $1.50 level, the ones at the $25 level that you've ignored two-part notices on. If you have 10 or more violations, you're subject to DMV hold where you wouldn't be able to re-register your vehicle under the current law.
And so your amendment would only apply to those who have 10 or more violations?
Only people who have been sent to DMV hold. So if you just have some outstanding tolls out there, you can transfer your vehicle. What happens if you have so many, the department reaches out to the person and says, you have a lot of tolls you need to clear up. This is what we're asking you to pay, and if not, we're going to send you to DMV hold. If they don't pay by the deadline, we send their information to our partners at Department of Safety, DMV. DMV then sends a letter to the individual and says, you have toll violations, you have 30 days to clear them up or you won't be able to register your vehicle. So there's a lengthy notification process.
Okay, I'm trying to think of the person who's going to try to get around this. So I receive a letter of notification that I've got 15 outstanding toll debts. I received that letter of notification, and so now I'm going to decide, because I have 30 days to respond to that and get my debts paid.
You have 30 days to pay it, correct?
So I'm going to transfer that to my spouse.
And you probably can at that point.
Okay.
Maybe we'll get your assistance in drafting the next revision to close all the loopholes.
Well, I kind of wondered too on how are private sales handled. So I see somebody that's selling a car privately, they now have to do something to go to check with the DMV.
So, that was actually my concern, when we were prohibiting the transfer of, titles. And the car dealers, the insurance companies, and the lien holders were getting a carve out. I felt that those entities were more well-equipped and sophisticated to contact DMV to see if there was a hold than the private person is. And we didn't want to see someone who, has scraped together a few $1,000s to buy a vehicle and does a private sale and then finds out that Joe Smith had toll violations, he's in DMV hold, and he really isn't able to sell his car to you, and yet you've given him your, few $1,000s that you have. What's that person supposed to do then? So I think limiting the transfer prohibition to family members, or individuals living at the same address is the most realistic way to address that, where you're not catching a private citizen, in that situation.
Okay. Can a buyer pay the unpaid tolls?
Sure, we'll take money from him.
And then there's always the possibility that I had recent charges that aren't showing up. How long does it take after you go through a toll and don't pay before it actually shows up in your system?
At least 7 days, because when you go through a toll and if you don't have the Easy Pass system and you don't pay cash at the time, within 7 days of the transaction, you're able to go online and pay the toll only without any fee. So it's 7 days before we know we have to send a notice to Senator Daniels that he owes the toll plus $1, and that starts the transaction notice process.
Okay, thank you. Senator Rosenwald, did you have a question?
No, I was just reminded that people speaking need to turn on their microphone by someone who's trying to listen.
I apologize.
Any further discussion? There being none, the motion before us was ought to pass.
Mr. Chairman, do we ask about this amendment?
Well, I guess.
Whether this amendment be drafted by the committee?
I
and brought
guess,
forward?
does the committee agree with the amendment? Yes?
I think so, yes.
Senator Hennessy?
Yes.
Okay, so is there a motion then to have a committee amendment?
Move to approve the committee amendment.
Okay.
Second.
Senator Reagan moves, second by Senator D'Alessandro. And this will be the amendment that has been provided by DOT and DOS. Any further discussion on that? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Is there a motion on the bill as amended?
Move out to pass as amended.
Senator D'Alessandro? Senator D'Alessandro moves ought to pass as amended, as seconded by Senator Reagan. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries. Senator D'Alessandro?
Yes, sure.
Senate Bill 443.
Minimum study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study on Senate Bill 443. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator D'Alessandro. Any discussion? I think there was some concern about the changes that are made at the local local level and how they match up to the statewide. So I would support the interim study so that we can make sure that any changes made locally are going to match the state as well. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor of interim study say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Senator Rosenwald, you want?
Sure, I know so much about these bills.
I think we're all equal in that respect. It's good to know we have a nice committee assistant that knows everything, though, and spell it out for us.
Right.
Senate Bill 444.
Move ITL.
Senator Reagan moves inexpedient to legislate on Senate Bill 444. Is there a second? Chair will second. Discussion? My concerns on this are about the $2.7 million price tag on it. And I guess I always get concerned on bills like this because Health and Human Services seems like it's pretty well overloaded as it is on many things, and we keep establishing new programs, and I'm curious if they might be able to find something that this would fit into and be able to do without creating a whole new program. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the ITL motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay,
Opposed.
and the motion carries 3-2. And I'll take that one. Senate Bill 447.
Move interim study.
Senator Reagan moves interim study on Senate Bill 447. Is there a second? I will second. Discussion? One of the questions I had on here is, it seemed to be unclear as to whether the state was building this infrastructure, like charging stations or such, or whether that was going to be left to private businesses, which I felt was more responsibility of the private businesses, just like service stations, gas stations are. Any further discussion? There being none, the motion is interim study. All those in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. And motion fails 2-3. Is there an alternate motion? Senator Rosenwald moves ought to pass. That's seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Any further discussion?
This begs the state to be subsidizing sales of electric vehicles. I don't know why we're in that business. Well, this is a saleable commodity for owners of electric vehicles. Much like gasoline-powered vehicles were not fueled by the federal government or state governments, but by private businesses.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. I'm sorry. Try that again. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Nay. And your vote was?
I don't even know what the motion was. What was the motion?
Ought to pass.
It was no.
Okay. 3-2, the motion passes. And who's going to take? Okay. You've got it. Senate Bill 448. Is there a motion on Senate Bill 448? Senator D'Alessandro moves ought to pass. That's seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Discussion? This again, I've got a similar position on this one as I did the last bill. It basically says let's get rid of fossil fuels so we can move toward electronic vehicles, and I'm not sure that that's the direction we should be going right now at the pace provided by the bill. Any further discussion? Motion before us is ought to pass on Senate Bill 448. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? Nay. The motion fails 2-3.
I'm sorry, I voted incorrectly.
I'm sorry.
I meant to vote aye.
Okay. So actually, I think I took you as an aye.
Doesn't matter what you say.
The motion fails on a 2-3 vote. Senator Hennessy moves interim study. And second? I'll second. Discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, the interim study passes 4-1. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you.
And Senator Hennessy, you want to take that? No? How about Senator Daniels? Senator Daniels will take that one.
Mr. Chairman, before we do Senate Bill 452, could we take a quick recess so I could talk to the LBA?
We could do better, because I think I wanted to end by 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So why don't we put that off until 3:29? 4:52.
And Senator Rosenwald, you might want to talk to Senator Ward as well. You can talk to Senator Ward as well, too. I think she might be doing something.
We're done.
We've got two more. Senate Bill 456, Law Enforcement Conduct Review Committee.
I just skipped 450.
No, we just put 452 off.
Easy one.
So I'll move in expedient to legislate on Senate Bill 456. Is there a second? Failing a second, is there an alternate motion? Senator D'Alessandro moves ought to pass on Senate Bill 456. Seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Any discussion? Got a $400,000 price tag every year. Additional staff. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay?
No.
Nay. What were we, aye? Okay, and the motion carries 3-2. And who's taking that out? Senator Rosenwald? And the last one, Senate Bill 459.
Ought to pass.
Senator Reagan moves ought to pass, seconded by Senator. $459. Ought to pass. Senator Reagan, seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. And it carries unanimously. And I'll take that one out as well. With that, we have completed our business for the day, so I'll take a motion to come out of executive session. Moved by Senator D'Alessandro, seconded by Senator Rosenwald. All those in favor of coming out of executive session say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and we will be adjourned. Okay.
I don't see Henry, so I don't know if he's waiting or he just went. We just left because it's 4 o'clock and we said 3:30. Let's just go over the ones I just wanted. Leave your list for next week.
For next week? Oh,
Okay, I have 303,
yep,
421.
363,
I have that too. I don't have these in any order.
okay.
421,
421, yep,
430,
yes,
445,
yes,
458,
yes,
401,
yes,
4.